Spotify had 100 million free users. Then they decided to destroy the free tier, and it worked, just not how they planned. In 2023, Spotify's leadership made a decision that would define the next 18 months of the company's reputation. Daniel Ek, CEO, and his monetization team drew a line in the sand. Free users were costing too much in server infrastructure. The solution: make the free tier so aggressively limited that users had no choice but to upgrade. But here's what they didn't anticipate. Free users don't upgrade when you squeeze them. They leave, and when they leave, they don't go nowhere. They go to Apple Music, they go to YouTube Music, they go to Amazon Music, and that's where this story gets interesting. Pattern interrupt. Let me show you exactly what Spotify did. In March 2023, Spotify started rolling out restrictions globally. First, you could only skip 6 times per hour on mobile. 6, that's one skip every 10 minutes. Second, mobile users couldn't choose shuffle mode. The app would shuffle for you. Third, they increased ad frequency. If you were hearing 2-3 ads per hour before, now you're hearing ads every 2-3 songs. This wasn't subtle. This was aggressive. The company literally put a countdown timer on your skips. You'd hit skip and a message would pop up. You have 5 skips left this hour. Psychological warfare, pure extraction. Why did they do this? The math seemed obvious to them. Spotify's operating costs were spiraling. Streaming licenses, the money they pay to record labels, artists, and rights holders, consume about 60% of their revenue. That's not changing. But server costs, infrastructure, data transfer, all of that scales with the number of users. So from the CFO's perspective, free users are a pure cost center. No revenue, just expenses. The logic went like this: if we make the free tier unbearable, we'll convert 30-40% of free users to premium. That's 30-40 million new paid subscribers. At $11.99 a month, that's $430-580 million in incremental annual revenue. The pain is temporary, the gain is permanent. It's elegant reasoning. It's also completely wrong. Pattern interrupt. Here's what actually happened. Within 6 weeks of the rollout, the backlash was visible. Reddit threads about Spotify exploded. Twitter X was flooded. And not with people complaining about missing songs, with people saying they were leaving. They weren't upgrading, they were deleting. Download numbers for competitor apps spiked. Apple Music saw a 23% increase in monthly app downloads in April 2023. YouTube Music jumped 18%. Amazon Music was quietly gaining territory. And here's the thing, these competitors didn't spend $1 on marketing. Spotify's own squeeze was their marketing budget, but the real problem wasn't the immediate exodus. It was the conversion math. Spotify's internal data, some of which leaked to tech analysts, showed that the conversion rate from free to premium among restricted users was actually lower than it was before the restrictions. Not higher, lower. Why? Because the people most likely to upgrade to premium are the people who were already engaged, already listening to specific artists, already using the platform as a core part of their day. Those are the people who got hit the hardest by the restrictions, and they responded by switching platforms entirely. The free users who remained, the genuinely price-sensitive users, couldn't upgrade anyway. They were teenagers, students, people in emerging markets. People for whom $12 a month is 5% of their monthly income. You can't squeeze those users into paying. You can only squeeze them out of the platform. Pattern interrupt. Meanwhile, Apple Music did something brilliant. They did nothing. While Spotify was implementing restrictions, Apple was just sitting there with an open free tier. No skip limits, no shuffle restrictions, just Spotify, but worse because it's integrated into a phone you already own. Apple Music started marketing aggressively. Switch to Apple Music, listen the way you want. They didn't even name Spotify, they didn't have to. By July 2023, 4 months into the squeeze, Spotify's premium subscriber growth had slowed measurably. The company had projected 170 million premium subscribers by Q3 2023. They hit 156 million. That's a 8% miss, which in Wall Street math is a disaster. But here's where it gets worse. Spotify's research showed that the users who left during this period were disproportionately younger users, more engaged users, and critically, users in North America and Western Europe. These aren't price-sensitive markets. These are high lifetime value markets. Spotify was extracting revenue from its most valuable user cohort. Pattern interrupt. By September 2023. Spotify quietly started walking back the restrictions. Not all of them, but enough to signal they'd learned something. They increased skips to 15 per hour. They brought back shuffle. They adjusted ad frequency in markets where the backlash was strongest. The damage was already done. Now, here's what I want you to understand about this story, because it's not really about Spotify. It's about a fundamental misunderstanding of how free tiers work in platform economics. A free tier isn't a demo, it's not a trial, it's a funnel. And like any funnel, the top of the funnel, the largest part, will always have the lowest conversion rate. When you aggressively restrict the free tier, you're not converting users, you're filtering them. You're separating out the most engaged users, the most valuable users, the users most likely to convert, and then you're actively pushing them toward the exit. The users you're left with, the ones you don't restrict into leaving, are the ones who can't pay anyway. It's backwards. The counterintuitive truth of free tier strategy is this: the companies that make the most money from free tiers are the ones that make the free tier almost good enough. Spotify's original model was almost perfect, almost enough storage, almost enough flexibility. Just different enough to make premium feel like an obvious upgrade. Then Spotify said, let's make free objectively bad. And they learned that when free is objectively bad, users object. Pattern interrupt. Here are 3 lessons from this that apply way beyond streaming. First, conversion rates are not linear. Doubling the friction doesn't double the conversion. It doesn't even half the conversion. It compounds. Friction multiplies. Second, your free tier isn't competing with your premium tier. It's competing with your competitors' free tiers. Apple Music's free tier beat Spotify's premium tier because it was integrated and unrestricted. Spotify forgot they were in a competitive market. Third, the users you lose when you squeeze aren't the users you're trying to convert. They're the users who were already converted. They're just using the product the way you designed it. When you change the design to be hostile, they leave, and they tell their friends why. Spotify's free tier destruction strategy destroyed value instead of creating